Arya pressed her palm against the frosted window of the bookstore cafe, watching snow drift past the amber streetlights. Inside, warmth pulled around laughing customers celebrating someone's 25th birthday. Balloons bobbed against the ceiling. A cake blazed with candles. She'd watched this scene dozens of times in her 23 years. Or was it 24? She honestly didn't know. Her guardian, Aunt Margot, had been a woman of rigid silence who moved them between rental apartments like chess pieces, never staying long enough for Arya to form attachments. When other children received birthday cards, Arya received lectures about practicality. "You were found on a church doorstep in January," Margot had told her once, her voice flat as winter stone. "Does it matter which day?" Apparently not. Birthdays became something Arya observed from the outside, like someone watching a film through soundproof glass. She understood the mechanics, cake, candles, wishes, but couldn't grasp the feeling. It seemed frivolous, this celebration of simply existing. Now, at 23 or 24, Arya had built a life of careful invisibility. She worked the morning shift at Moonlit Pages, a bookstore cafe where the owner, Daniel Reyes, let her arrange displays however she wanted. She'd created little worlds in each section, romance novels surrounded by dried roses, mysteries tucked behind curtains, poetry books open to beautiful passages. Daniel had noticed her talent immediately when she'd applied 3 months ago. He was 32, with warm brown eyes and hands always stained with coffee or ink. He moved through the cafe with quiet confidence, remembering every regular's order, asking genuine questions about their lives. He'd tried asking about hers. "Any plans this weekend, Arya?" "Just reading." "Family nearby?" "Not really." She deflected his kindness like light off a mirror, afraid that if he looked too closely, he'd see how little substance she actually possessed. But Daniel was patient. He left her favorite tea on the counter without asking. He played soft jazz during her shifts. He never pushed. Today, a regular customer named Mrs. Chen was celebrating her granddaughter's birthday. The little girl, maybe 7, stood on a chair conducting the birthday song like a maestro. When she blew out the candles, her entire face radiated joy. "Make a good wish." Mrs. Chen asked. "I wished for a puppy and for Sophie to be my best friend forever." Everyone laughed. The girl's mother gently reminded her that wishes were supposed to be secret. Arya felt something twist beneath her ribs, not quite envy, more like recognition of an absence. Like realizing you've been breathing shallow your entire life and only just noticed. Daniel appeared beside her with 2 mugs of hot chocolate. His shoulder nearly touched hers as they watched the celebration wind down. "Sweet, isn't it?" he murmured. "I suppose." "When's yours?" Arya's fingers tightened around the mug. "My what?" "Your birthday." She'd been asked this before and had learned to deflect smoothly. But something about Daniel's genuine curiosity made her hesitate. Instead of lying, she said something true. "I don't think I've ever had one." Daniel's hands stilled on the espresso machine. He'd been pulling a shot for a customer, but Arya's words stopped him cold. "What do you mean, you've never had one?" Arya shrugged, wiping down the counter with mechanical precision. "Just never did. My aunt wasn't really into celebrations." She said it so casually, as if describing the weather. But Daniel heard the hairline fracture in her voice. Not quite pain, more like a foundational crack she'd learned to build around. He finished the espresso, delivered it with his trademark smile, then returned to find Arya shelving books in the poetry section. Her dark hair fell forward, hiding her face as she traced the spine of a Pablo Neruda collection. "Everyone has a birthday, Arya." "I have a day I was born, presumably. I just don't know when it was." She pulled out another book, Love Poems by and Sexton. "Aunt Margot said I was found in winter. January, maybe February." She never thought it mattered which specific day. Daniel felt something fierce ignite in his chest. He wanted to find this Aunt Margot and ask how she could look at a child and decide their existence wasn't worth celebrating. "It matters," he said quietly. Arya glanced at him, surprise flickering across her features. In 3 months of working together, Daniel had learned to read her micro-expressions, the slight widening of her eyes when genuinely curious, the way her lips pressed together when holding back emotion, the unconscious step backward when feeling vulnerable. She was stepping back now. "It's fine, really. I'm not sad about it." And that was the heartbreaking part. She meant it. You couldn't miss what you'd never known. To Arya, Birthdays were theoretical, like concepts from anthropology textbooks. She understood them academically but had never experienced the embodied joy of being celebrated. Daniel made a decision in that moment, watching her shelve poetry in the soft afternoon light. He would give her a birthday. Not someday. Not eventually. Soon. That evening, after Aria left, Daniel sat in the empty cafe with his laptop and a notebook. He'd always been a planner. It was why Moonlit Pages thrived when other bookstores failed. He thought through every detail. When? It couldn't be fake arbitrary. It needed meaning. His eyes drifted to the calendar on his desk, where he'd circled today's date 3 months ago with a note. New hire, Aria. Quiet. Sad eyes. Hire her. 3 months. 90 days since she'd walked into his life wearing an oversized sweater and carrying a tattered copy of The Night Circus. He'd asked why that book. It's about people who create magic in the dark, she'd answered. I like that. He liked her immediately, the careful way she moved through space, the intelligence in her observations, the hidden poetry in how she arranged books like she was telling stories within stories. He would make today, or rather, 3 months from today, her birthday. The anniversary of when they met. When he'd first seen her. When his world had quietly shifted. Daniel pulled out his phone and started texting friends who owed him favors. He needed decorations, specific music, a particular type of cake. And he needed it all without Aria knowing. His business partner and best friend, Jordan, called him crazy. You're throwing a birthday party for your employee who doesn't know her own birthday? Dude, that's either incredibly sweet or incredibly weird. She's not just an employee. Silence on the other end. Then, oh, okay, yeah, I'll help. Daniel hadn't meant to fall for Aria. It happened gradually, like seasons changing. The way she hummed while brewing tea. How she left encouraging notes in books for customers to find. This one made me believe in second chances. The rare, devastating smile she gave when something truly delighted her. He hadn't told her, of course. She was skittish as a deer, always ready to bolt. But he could show her, couldn't he? He could show her that she deserved to be celebrated. 3 months ago, Aria had walked through his door. In 2 weeks, she would walk through it again, into her very first birthday. Aria noticed Daniel acting strange. Nothing obvious. He was too smooth for that. But in the week leading up to what she didn't know was her birthday, she caught small discrepancies. Whispered phone calls. Jordan appearing with unmarked boxes that went straight to the storage room. Daniel asking seemingly casual questions. What's your favorite color? I don't know. Blue, maybe. The dark kind, like twilight. Favorite flower? White roses. They smell like... She stopped, embarrassed. Like what? Like something good is possible. He'd looked at her so intensely then, she'd had to turn away, heat rising in her cheeks. Another day. If you could have any cake flavor. Why are you asking? Jordan's girlfriend is a baker. I'm thinking of changing our cake supplier. Chocolate. But not too sweet. With raspberry filling. That night, she lay in her small apartment, staring at ceiling cracks and wondering why Daniel's questions made her pulse quicken. She'd never been good at reading men's interest, had assumed herself essentially invisible. Boys in school had looked through her. Men on trains never looked up from their phones. But Daniel looked at her. Really saw her. It was terrifying and addictive in equal measure. She found herself thinking about him constantly. The way he rolled his sleeves to his elbows when working. His habit of tucking a pencil behind his ear and forgetting it was there. How he listened like her words actually mattered. Once, reaching for the same book on a high shelf, their hands had touched. The contact lasted maybe 3 seconds, but Aria felt it in her spine, her stomach, the secret places she'd learned to keep dormant. Daniel had pulled back quickly. Sorry. It's fine. But it wasn't fine. She'd wanted him to keep touching her. Wanted to know if his hands felt as warm as they looked. These thoughts were new and frightening. Aria had built her life on safe distance, on not needing anything she might lose. Wanting Daniel felt like stepping onto ice, not knowing if it would hold. The day before her secret birthday, Aria found Daniel in the storage room, surrounded by fairy lights. What's all this? He didn't even flinch. Author event next week. Trying to make it special. We don't have an author event scheduled. Last-minute thing. Surprise. She wanted to push, but Daniel smiled that warm, disarming smile, and she found herself smiling back instead. Okay. Need help? No, I've got it. Actually, could you handle tomorrow's opening? I have a morning appointment. Sure. What she didn't know, Daniel would arrive at 4 a.m. to transform moonlit pages into something magical. That night, Arya couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Daniel's questions, the mysterious boxes, the fairy lights. Her rational mind said it was nothing. Her heart whispered something different. At 3 a.m., she gave up on sleep and opened her window. Snow fell in the darkness, each flake catching streetlight like a tiny wish. She thought about the little girl making birthday wishes, about Mrs. Chen's warm laugh, about Daniel's hands almost touching hers. For the first time in her life, Arya let herself want something impossible. She whispered it to the winter darkness, I wish someone would see me. She didn't know that Daniel already did. She didn't know that tomorrow, everything would change. Arya arrived at Moonlit Pages at her usual time, 6:30 a.m., before the city fully woke. She had her key ready, but the door was already unlocked. Odd. Daniel had said he'd be out this morning. She pushed inside and stopped breathing. The bookstore had transformed into a dream. Fairy lights draped every shelf, casting warm gold across spines and surfaces. White roses, actual white roses, sat in vases throughout the space, their scent turning the air sweet and impossible. Someone had moved the cafe tables to create an intimate central space where a small round table waited, covered in midnight blue fabric. On the table, a single perfect cake. Chocolate with what looked like raspberry between the layers. One candle, unlit, waiting. You're early. Arya spun. Daniel stood in the doorway to his office, wearing dark jeans and a blue sweater that matched his eyes. Wait, had she always known his eye color? What is this? Her voice came out uncertain, almost afraid. Daniel walked toward her slowly, like approaching something wild and precious. Do you know what today is? Tuesday. It's 3 months exactly since you walked through that door and asked if we were hiring. He stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets, suddenly looking younger and more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. 3 months since I met you. Arya's heart hammered. I don't understand. You said you never had a birthday, so I decided to give you one. He gestured to the transformed space. This. Today. It's yours, if you want it. Her eyes burned. No one had ever. The scope of this gesture was incomprehensible. He'd done this for her. Created beauty and meaning and celebration for someone who didn't even know her own birth date? Why? She whispered. Daniel took a step closer. Then another. Now she could smell his cologne, cedar and something crisp, like winter mornings. Because you deserve to be celebrated, Arya. Because in 3 months, you've made this place more magical than I could alone. Because when you smile, which isn't nearly often enough, it feels like... He stopped, shook his head. You matter. That's reason enough. A tear escaped down her cheek. She wiped it quickly, embarrassed. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just... He held out his hand. Stay. She took his hand. His palm was warm, slightly rough with calluses from handling books and coffee equipment. The touch sent electricity up her arm, pooling in her chest. He led her to the table, pulled out the chair, waited until she sat before taking the seat across from her. The cake sat between them, beautiful and impossible. I should light the candle, Daniel said. For the proper experience. He produced a lighter, touched flame to wick. The candle caught, casting dancing shadows across his face. Now you make a wish and blow it out. I don't know how to wish. Yes, you do. You've been doing it your whole life without realizing. Arya looked at the flame, then at Daniel. His eyes held such tenderness, such careful hope. She thought about all the years of not being seen, of moving through the world like a ghost. And now this man who'd noticed her sadness, her isolation, and decided to do something about it. She closed her eyes. The wish rose from somewhere deep and true. I wish I don't have to celebrate the next one alone. She blew. The flame died. When she opened her eyes, Daniel was watching her with an expression that made her chest ache. What did you wish? Aren't wishes supposed to be secret? Usually. But I have a feeling yours might involve me. Her breath caught. Was she that transparent? Or was he that observant? Maybe, she admitted. Daniel reached across the table, his hand covering hers. Arya, I need to tell you something. This isn't just about birthdays. What is it about? You. Us. The fact that I've been falling for you since the day you quoted Neruda while shelving love poems. The fact that I think about you constantly. The fact that... He stopped, searching her face. Tell me if I'm reading this wrong. Tell me if this is just me. It wasn't just him. God, it wasn't just him. Arya stood, her chair scraping against the wooden floor. Daniel looked up, worry flickering across his features, afraid he'd pushed too hard, said too much. She walked around the table until she stood directly in front of him. Her hands were shaking. It's not just you, she whispered. Daniel rose slowly, his full height making her tilt her head back. They were inches apart now, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his brown eyes, the slight unevenness of his breathing. You're sure? I'm terrified, she admitted. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be someone who gets celebrated or loved or... He kissed her. Soft at first, questioning. His hand cupped her jaw, thumb brushing her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. Arya made a sound, surprise or relief or want, and pressed closer. Her fingers found the soft fabric of his sweater, gripping like he might disappear if she let go. The kiss deepened. Daniel's other hand slid to her lower back, pulling her flush against him. She felt the solid warmth of his chest, his heart beating as frantically as hers. When his tongue traced her lower lip, she opened for him, tasting coffee and mint and something uniquely him. They broke apart, breathing hard. Daniel rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that for months. Why didn't you? Because you needed to feel safe first, to know I wasn't going anywhere. And that understanding, made her want him even more. Daniel, she breathed. I want. Tell me. Whatever it is. I want to feel real. To feel like I exist. Like I matter. You do. God, Arya, you do. He kissed her again, more urgent now. His hands slid under her sweater, fingers splaying across her bare skin. She gasped at the contact, at the heat of him against her. They stumbled backward until she was pressed against a bookshelf, paperbacks digging into her spine, but she didn't care. Daniel's mouth moved to her neck, placing open-mouthed kisses along her pulse point. Arya's head fell back, her hands tangling in his hair, holding him there. Is this okay? He murmured against her skin. More than okay. We can stop. If it's too much. Please don't stop. He pulled back enough to look at her, his pupils blown wide with desire. I want to make you feel everything you've never felt. Every good thing you've missed. Yes, she whispered. Please. Daniel took her hand, leading her toward his office in the back. The space was cozy, a desk, a worn leather couch, walls lined with his personal book collection. He locked the door behind them, then turned to face her. Come here. She did. He sat on the couch and pulled her onto his lap, her legs straddling his thighs. The position was intimate, vulnerable. She could feel him hard beneath her, feel the tremor in his hands as they grip her hips. You're shaking, she noticed. Because you're perfect. Because I want you so badly I can barely think straight. She rolled her hips experimentally. Daniel groaned, his fingers tightening. Dangerous, he warned. Good. She kissed him this time, taking control, exploring. Her hands slid under his sweater, mapping the planes of his chest, the ridges of his stomach. He was solid and warm and wonderfully real. Daniel's hands found the hem of her sweater, his eyes asking permission. She nodded, and he pulled it over her head, revealing a simple black bra. His gaze turned reverent. Beautiful, he murmured, then kissed along her collarbone, down to the swell of her breast. Arya's breath came in gasps as he worked, as his talented mouth and hands learned her body. When he finally removed her bra, when his lips closed around her nipple, she cried out, pleasure sparking through her like lightning. Sure, he soothed. We are still in the bookstore. I don't care. He chuckled against her skin. I'm creating a monster. You're creating someone who feels alive. That sobered him. He looked up, his expression intense. That's all I've ever wanted, to make you feel alive. They moved together, shedding clothes and inhibitions. When he finally slid inside her, both of them gasped at the rightness of it. Daniel moved with careful intensity, watching her face, learning what made her gasp, what made her whimper, what made her clench around him with desperate need. "Look at me," he commanded softly. "I want to see you." She met his eyes, and the intimacy of it, being seen completely, nearly undid her. He saw her fear and loneliness and hunger, saw her hope and want and growing trust. And he didn't look away. "You're mine now," he whispered as they moved together. "This day, every day after. You don't have to be alone anymore. Promise. Promise." When she came, it was with his name on her lips and tears on her cheeks, not from sadness, but from finally being known. After, they lay tangled together on the narrow couch, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "Happy birthday, Aria." She smiled against his skin. "Best one yet." "It's your only one." "Still counts." Outside, the bookstore waited in its fairy-lit beauty. The cake remained uneaten. The roses perfumed the air with promises of good things. But in Daniel's arms, Aria had already received the only gift that mattered, the knowledge that she was chosen. Celebrated. Loved. "Next year," Daniel murmured, "I'm throwing you an even bigger party. Just you is enough." "Good answer." She tilted her head up to kiss him. "Thank you. For seeing me. For making me real. You were always real, love." I just held up the mirror. And in the quiet warmth of that moment, wrapped in the arms of someone who'd given her not just a birthday, but a reason to look forward to all the birthdays to come, Aria finally understood what it meant to be celebrated. It meant being loved exactly as you were. The end.